From dominating Leon Edwards for 24 minutes inside the octagon to getting knocked out cold in a matter of seconds, Kamaru Usman's loss was the biggest upset in MMA last year, and that's why he's still the favorite in the rematch. I mean, it's really hard to bet against a guy who was unbeaten in the UFC, probably the most dominant welterweight champion in history. It's rare that you would see the reigning champion as the underdog in a title match, but this is the case at UFC 286. Almost everyone, including the bookmakers, has written down Usman as the favorite heading into the fight.
Kamaru, the Nigerian Nightmare, Usman.
Eric Anders agrees with the notion that it was the Nigerian Nightmare's fight to lose, but he doesn't think that he's going to make the same mistake twice. The light heavyweight contender, Jan Blachowicz, chimed in saying that Kamaru is going to pick off where he left off to reclaim his throne.
In the first fight, and that allowed for him to really dig and wear Covington down.
And Brian Battle also believes that another win for Edwards is unlikely, cause the lightning is gonna strike twice. Most of the fighters agree with the take that Edwards is going to lose his belt to a unanimous decision in favor of Usman, but there's an X factor, according to Henry Cejudo and Chael Sonnen. The two legends teamed up on a YouTube video on Cejudo's channel, and they discussed how would Usman be feeling heading into the fight, especially after he was knocked out.
You show him the left.
Triple C shared that after he got concussed in one of his fights, he was hesitant to get back into the octagon. At the back of his mind, he was afraid of getting knocked out again. It almost took him 6 months to get over it and stop over-twitching. Here, the bad guy chimed in, saying that there's a misconception in boxing that when a fighter gets knocked out once, he's never the same. Now, nothing changes literally, but what happens is that the fighter starts freezing up. He's afraid to attack and defend and starts leaving himself open a lot. This makes it a lot easier for their opponents to land some nasty strikes.
Of this magnitude, you want to see him fight over an extended period of time as they enter in the round 10.
Both Cejudo and Sonnen believe that the Nigerian Nightmare might face something similar, and the thing is, they aren't the only ones. Jack Della Maddalena thinks Leon is better than Kamaru, and that he's going to win once again. I don't know if he saw any of the last two fights these guys were in, but Usman was far better in every aspect of the game, and Randy Brown is also of a similar opinion. However, these two are the only ones who are speaking up openly in favor of Edwards.
Of the game. He can wrestle, he can do jiu-jitsu, his striking is beautiful. If you try and pressure him, he's going to hit you in the...
Because, as I said, the vast majority of the community has thrown their lot in with Usman.
Kick
Oh, he got tagged by a hard left.
No, and he's hurt.
Yeah.
Edwards is hurt, and you can tell by him backing up.
And Cejudo and Sonnen's take wasn't that Edwards was or is better than Kamaru, it was just that there could be another upset due to the fact that the former champ might be afraid of getting hit in the face again.
Edwards backs himself up to the fence. Nice elbow.
Big elbow by the champion.
This is something that even Rocky believes is going to play a role at UFC 286.
Muhammad, as you guys say, usually likes to use the pace to his advantage. Nice 1-2 from Edwards.
He told BT Sport that a knockout affects everyone differently, and it certainly won't be easy for Usman either, especially when he'll have to face the guy who knocked him out in the first place.
You landed that kick, and the moment you saw him drop, and you knew you did it. What was that like?
I can't explain it, Joe.
Leon also doesn't see the former champ changing his style completely in 5 or 6 months. He expects Kamaru to do the same kind of stuff he did in their last fight, and that isn't a problem for Rocky at all.
Really coming, not recklessly, but aggressively now, and Edwards is trying to time him like that.
Another factor that's going to play a huge role is age. The Nigerian Nightmare is now 35, so he isn't exactly a young fighter anymore. And this will only add to the hometown advantage that Edwards has. He is unbeaten in the UK, and he uses the crowd's energy to fuel himself inside the cage. On top of that, Usman has never fought anyone in their own backyard. So things might look dicey for the former champ, according to Rocky. But some of you might be wondering, how did Edwards pull off the win last time? You see, if the decision went to the judges, Usman's victory was certain. There was no way that Edwards had any chance of winning at UFC 278, except if he could end the Nigerian Nightmare in a submission or a knockout. And that is exactly what Rocky did. Walking into the final round, he knew that it was all or nothing now. He was down on the cards. He had been outstruck, out-wrestled, and completely outmatched by the then reigning champion. So, all he could think of was to end the bout on his own terms. And I've got to admit that Edwards managed to pull a rabbit out of his hat with that one. But even if he didn't, lasting that long against a champion as dominant as Usman was a feat in itself. It's safe to say that Usman will be even better prepared this time around, and he won't allow the same thing to happen again.
If he wants a chance to finish this takedown, but nope, you let him go. But now he's got to go forward, though. Like you said, Joe, he's got to give respect.
Usman was largely dominant in their next outing, but he allowed Edwards a few moments to shine. Let's face it, Rocky won the very first round of the match. He started by landing some leg kicks that made the Nigerian shoot. Edwards even defended against that. He got up easily, even when the former champ took him to the canvas, and successfully executed his takedown. He even got on the full mount, which caused Usman to scramble, and in that, he gave up his back to Leon, who then attempted a choke until the bell. The next rounds, though, all belonged to Usman. He was swarming Edwards with strikes and taking him down almost at will. Rounds 2 and 3 saw that the former champion maintained a lot of control time, maintaining top position on the ground and wearing the Brit out. And this seems to be working quite well so far. Leon looked drained, as if he had no energy left at the end of the third round. Like I had doubts about whether he'd even be able to survive the championship rounds. Cause round 4 ended up being a similar story in the end. I mean, yes, Leon did sneak in a few strikes at the beginning of the round and was even close to a takedown, but Usman managed to defend against it well and ended up in control on the ground once again. At this point, it all seemed to be over. Edwards was all but beaten by then. He didn't seem to have it in him to contest the final round. You could hear his corner telling him to stop feeling sorry for himself, but it didn't seem to have any effect on Rocky at all. He still looked completely out of it and wasn't threatening at all. Sure, he did try a couple of shots, but it was all but over until he set up that beautiful head kick.
Consequences. Watch this.
Rogan.
Oh my goodness. I mean, it's flawless.
Edwards threw in a couple of light punches to gauge how Usman would react. He then threw another right, which made the Nigerian Nightmare lean his head towards his right. And boom! His left leg connected so cleanly with Usman's face that it was instant lights out. And this came with less than a minute remaining in the match. The crowd went wild after it happened, cause no one expected it. Afterwards, Usman congratulated Edwards on the win. It was heartening to see the former champ's reaction. He had no ill will towards Rocky and instead praised him for what he was able to pull off. That's why we love this sport. But those are the predictions for the main event of UFC 286.